Beautiful,
Look
beautiful.
at that.
All right, well, then we can begin. Link sisters and guests, please allow me to introduce Vincent Kane. He is the representative from BB&T and SunTrust, now Truist, that are working with us as a part of a grant that the National Trends and Services facet was awarded for financial literacy. So we are attempting in our service area to get the word out more so that those citizens, us included as well, can get the information we need where we can strengthen our financial health. We spend quite a bit of time, and during the pandemic, we have concentrated on our physical health. We've concentrated on our mental health. However, the financial health did not take a break. We still need to get an understanding and start to get a handle on where we're going to begin to build for a more secure financial future. And that's very important. And we want to instill that in all of our communities and especially be able to share that with our young people so that they know from the beginning how to build a strong financial foundation. So without further ado, Mr. Kane will take the floor and give us the information that we so desperately want. Mr. Kane, if you would.
Well, thank you so much for that, Miss Odoms. And definitely a pleasure. That was a great on the spot, on the fly introduction, last minute, and you said it like you've been preparing it. But I thank you for jumping in, and apologies for anyone who's having some difficulties joining, and that's why we are recording this session. And all you need to hear is just listen in. But thank you all once again. Thank you, Fort Valley chapter of the Links. Um, I have to say that I am an Arrow Link myself by way of my mother. She's a retired Link, and my sister. So I'm also a part of the Link family. And so anytime I get the opportunity to serve in this way, I am always excited about it. But once again, my name is Vincent Kane. I'm the Regional Multicultural Banking Officer representing Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And what I do is I work with the local managers to help them to get outside of their branches and share the conversations that they have on a daily basis with the community, such that churches, nonprofit organizations, community groups, and what I'm going to pause. Please, just as a housekeeping note, please make sure that your microphone is muted. We've got a little feedback coming in there. And what I'll do is I'll hit this mute all button and make sure I come off mute just to make sure that we don't have any interruptions. So here we go. There we go. So working with churches, nonprofit organizations, community groups, police stations, firehouses, anywhere that the community gathers, and help them to share this information by way of financial knowledge. And Bank on Your Success is our financial knowledge curriculum that we utilize. And during this time, we've been kind of two small things been going on for the last 2 years. One, something called a merger. As you can see, BB&T SunTrust, now Truist, have been happening, but a merger at the same time of a pandemic. And so we developed this particular segment called Budgeting During a Crisis because the pandemic has had no heart. Um, you know, it doesn't matter what you look like, who you are, where you live, how much money you make, if you're a student, that doesn't matter. The pandemic has had no heart, and it has impacted all of us by way of our own households, whether you're a business owner, not a business owner. And what we wanted to do was just take a pause this morning, such that you can look at your own household. And as myself, I've got two boys upstairs eating me out of house and home. We've done a lot of the virtual learning. They're 10 and 12 right now. So when that school shuts down, we've got the virtual learning going on. I've had the same issues when everybody's on the computer. My Wi-Fi is messing up. I'm telling them to stop walking so much. But that doesn't really apply to it. But to me, it seems like it. But it's a balance that we are all having to deal with in our homes during this time. So I'm thankful to you all and all of our guests on the line. And without further ado, I'm going to go on and get us started. Okay. All right. And as we go through, I want you to utilize the chat function. And, I'll be asking some questions as we go through the session this morning. And it's not like a test or anything like that, but it's just things that will prompt your thought process as far as what you're doing in your own household, in your neighborhood, in your community. And that's the purpose for today as well. So thank you all once again. So let us get started. So again, myself, I'm Vincent Kane. This is my email address. The best way to contact me, Regional Multicultural Banking Officer. Y'all can see me on the camera, so we don't have to stay on that. That's kind of an old picture, so I got a lot more gray right now, y'all. All right, so multicultural banking at Truist is built on a model that puts the community at the center of everything that we do. We're committed to inspiring and building better lives in communities, and one way that we accomplish that is through the sharing of financial knowledge. Now, we're in the midst of some unprecedented times, and the sharing of financial knowledge is of the utmost importance to help people navigate their financial situation. Now, while each individual situation is different, we can't prescribe advice for each person during this call. So our goal is to provide you with some crisis budgeting best practices and other helpful ideas to consider around income creation and available resources. We encourage you to use the tools that have been provided. Now, we do have a digital workbook, but for this particular presentation, you can just follow along, and that's something that we can send out after the presentation, just as a reference. And I'm going to share an additional resource as well that you'll be able to download and use on your personal device and put your own information in and just save and just kind of see some differences. Well, we'll talk about that in just a few moments. So here's what we're going to cover today. The bulk of our time is going to be spent walking you through the various sections of the crisis budget. Now, if you have questions as we go through the content, please feel free to ask. We want to make this interactive. Someone else may have the same question, so don't hesitate. We're all friends here, so ask away. And you can do that by utilizing the chat box. I'll try to keep an eye on it. And then Dr. McGee, if you see anyone that puts something in the chat box and I may not respond, you can unmute yourself and kind of jump in as well. All right. So living through crisis is nothing new. And I see we've got some. There we go. Great conversation already starting in that chat box. There we go. So living through a crisis is nothing new. People around us are going through that crisis every single day. Job loss of loved ones, illnesses, etc. The difference with what we're experiencing now is the speed, intensity, and the onset of this crisis and the global impact of this pandemic. Now, unlike a hurricane that strikes a particular region, or for some of us, a snowstorm, ice storm, things that have been happening recently, this pandemic has impacted the entire world within a very short period of time. So going through a crisis is never fun, but there's always an opportunity to learn something. We hope that we can impart some best practices around budgeting that will help you better navigate your finances during the midst of this crisis and on the other side of it. Let's jump in to understand the different sections of the crisis budget. Now, there are two main components of any budget. That's expenses and income. And a lot of you know this already. Expenses, of course, is money going out to pay bills, be it debt, electricity, mortgage, rent, date nights, etc. Income is money coming in. So think of your regular paycheck, alimony, any other sources of money flowing in that help to fund your expenses. Now, during regular times, we would say start with your income and budget every dollar. But for the purposes of crisis budgeting, the approach is a little different. We want to determine the absolute minimum expenses needed and then find enough month income to cover those expenses. Let's take a look at the section of the budget that helps prompt us to identify our expenses. That's money going out. So think of your household. This is what's leaving the household. Now, this would be, of course, in your digital workbook or the workbook if you had it, but if not, it's fine because we got it right here. But you see the budget as one complete document. Now, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to provide you with a link to where you can find crisis budgeting worksheet in Excel version. Actually, we will email that out to you. All you need to do is input your numbers, and the document will calculate it all for you. Now, for purposes of going through each section, we've broken it up on the next 4 slides. This first slide looks at must-have fixed expenses. So when we think of a fixed expense, it's an expense that stays the same month to month. These are must-have expenses that are the same each payment. So you got your housing, your rent, mortgage, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance. In the chat box, if anyone would like to throw in there, what is a fixed expense that is a must-have? Now, we're going to do variable next. So think of something that does not change on a monthly basis that we have to have. And you just throw it in the chat box. Utility bills, I see it. That's a good one. Food. We're going to get to the food piece. There's you know, that can vary based upon how you do it. Now, mortgage, that's a good one. That's a good one. Remember, this is something that's not going to change, but these are all great answers. All great answers. Car note, yep. If you got that fixed car note, absolutely. Great responses. Great responses. Utilities, if you got them fixed, absolutely. Yep. Great responses, y'all. Health and car insurance, absolutely. Good deal. Good deal. Appreciate the participation, y'all. That's what we like to see. It's just making everybody think this morning. So we've talked about fixed expenses. Let's look at those must-have variable expenses now. Now, these are expenses that they're essential, but they're a different amount each payment. Electricity and gas will base, upon how much you use. Groceries, exactly. I see food there. It varies based upon how much you eat. And now we want to carefully inventory all of these for our own households. You got electricity, gas, phone plan, groceries, childcare. That's another one. Groceries is a big one, because if you've got more family members, whether it be kids and just other families in your home during this time, you've got more mouths in the home. You've got more food being consumed. So that means your spends have changed from what you may have done before, and you may not be able to spend the same way. So that's just something that we have to think about while we were during this time. Internet, yep, that is another. And that's gonna actually, y'all are good, because you're leading on to the next slide. But internet is one that we call a sanity expense, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Repairs and maintenance, home and a car, yep, those are some unfortunate must-haves, I tell you. And again, I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. All right. So now let's look at debt payments. Anything that you owe would be recorded here. So think of that car loan, student loan, lease of equipment, furniture, any taxes for other property or land that you may own, or taxes that you pay for a parent's home, etc. And you see, we've got that auto loan, student loan, credit card, but then we also have what I call the sanity expenses. You got that video streaming service. So you said the internet. We've done a lot here in our home. We've got Rokus. We've got about 3 or 4 Rokus. We saved on those cable boxes by getting those Rokus, because you pay for those boxes on a monthly basis. You just don't want them all on at the same time, because then the internet starts freezing up. But treats, I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's a little cold outside, but I still love it. But I don't need to be spending, $30 a week right now on mint chocolate chip ice cream, when I need to make sure that my family has their own food and snacks to eat on a regular basis. Medicine, that's a big one, especially during this time. Unfortunately, myself and my family, we all had COVID about 3 weeks ago. And blessed that we all feel good right now. But just as we've seen, this uptick has been really a reminder that this thing is still out there, and we all are being impacted in different way. But we were spending more on just getting the Advil and getting tea and things along those lines. For y'all know who know what a hot toddy is, and the non-alcoholic type of hot toddy, it was very beneficial during that time. But that's another whole story right there. But great examples, y'all. Great examples. So here, we want to tally up all of our expenses. This is all of the money that's leaving our home. This gives you a grand total of each category. So you've got your must-have fixed expenses, your must-have variable expenses, debt payments, and you want to keep those in mind. And then those sanity expenses. There's some other sanity expenses that we're going to talk about in just a moment. And that's another. So before we move on to the next, what are some other sanity expenses that y'all can think of? And y'all can put that in the chat box. Things that we just have to keep us sane during this time. And there's two big ones out there that if you don't guess them, I'm going to tell you anyway. But I'm going to let y'all think about that for just a moment. Starbucks, yes, that's another big one. That's another big one. Absolutely. Whether you're going, a lot of times, there's Starbucks gift cards that have been very beneficial from just gifts that we've been shopping. Yes. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. Mani Petty, there it is. That's one of the big ones. Getting that done, it's just, I mean, I do my own. You see, I don't have anything right here or anything like that. But, getting your hair done, that's a $1 million big one right there. And then, for guys out there going to the barbershop. Now you see, I'm pretty clean up top. That's because, number one, I've got two boys. So the bathroom in the basement turned into our barbershop. Everybody's getting even Stevens or just a clean cut, because $25 a week per head got to be a little expensive during this time. So they look forward to those lineups and hooking up with daddy in the barbershop in the basement. But those are just another, more examples of things that we spend and that we have to change during this time. So, my wife is good at, braiding her own hair. And I think my nephew just walked in that lives not too far from us to get his hair braided up. So we're doing things to help our family at the same time. So great responses, y'all. Great responses. All right. We wrapped up the total of our expenses, and that's the money that's going out. This gives you a grand category of each of these expenses. So now we want to look at some cost cutting, and this is what we were just talking about: needs versus wants. And you want to look at ways that you could begin to cut some of those expenses. And here's some helpful tips. All right, so we talked about that phone plan or the internet. Maybe having the least expensive phone plan, or not having the internet that includes every service that's along with it. Getting something that's a little more basic, a less expensive car, or if you have two cars, get rid of one. And I talk about this all the time. If you have a vehicle that's sitting in your garage that you're not driving, it's eating up insurance. Because they still charge you for it, unless of course you tell them it's in storage. I think they can decrease that, but that's up to the insurance company. But decreasing your utilities to the most basic plan. You speak to your landlord or a mortgage provider to see what payment relief is out there. See a lot of times, and we talk about this with even some of the debt payments that you have, and this is going to come up on one of the next slides, but if you don't have to pay it now, it gives you the opportunity to have those extra funds for just now. But remember, at the end of the cycle, you will have to pay it during that time. So you want to keep that in mind, because it's not just going away. Lowering your grocery bill, buying healthy, get less expensive food, and move to drinking water. We don't always have to have that Dasani water and that premium spring water. Just get like the Kroger brand, Kroger filtered water, Perrier. Yep. Now that can get a little expensive, but it's some good water to have, and sometimes it helps. I like a lot of ginger ales. I don't always have my Canada Dry all the time, so I get the Circle K brand or the the Kroger brand or the Target brand and so forth. It's just ways to save on that. Unless, of course, you find that buy one, get one at Publix. That's another story. So I'll just leave that with y'all. But what are some other ways that you can kind of lower some of your own expenses, some things that you're spending on a regular basis? You can throw those in the chat box of any. I know we talked about several, but anything that may pop into mind, things that you may be doing differently already to help cut some of these costs. Amazon bulk items. Now that is, Amazon alone is amazing, and it's kind of made me lazy because I just this week I needed to go and find some trimming scissors, trim my boy's hair up. I could have went up the street to Stylies. I could have went to the actual store. Instead, I just did on Amazon. It came next day, less than 24 hours. Sam's Club bulk, absolutely. Yep, I love to buy my meats from Sam. Cooking at home, I love to cook too. I love grilling. Our grills are covered up right now because it's been raining so much, but I love doing that, especially on the weekends. Great examples, y'all. And cooking at home is also very therapeutic, at least to me. I love cooking on Sundays. My wife loves, she plans it all out. That's another big thing. For those who do cook a lot at home, you've got families at home, planning it out, at least get the week, planning your meals out saves a lot of time. Now she's exactly meal plan and prep. She plans the whole month out. A lot of times I don't eat what everybody else eat because I'm kind of sporadic and just, if I got to taste something, I may just go get it, but I'm bad. Well, I mean, we all, but it has been very beneficial. And so by in the beginning of the week, everything that's needed, and usually it's pickup, doing the Kroger pickup, and then everything is planned, and you're not going out every day to buy things. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. Let's see. I see another in here. Home entertainment versus going to the movies, fun centers, etc. Absolutely. And I talked a lot about this when the weather was nice outside. Being able to just go outside and number one, it's safe with your own family because we're all here together. So and then date nights, etc. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. All right. So things to trim, eliminate. There's a lot of the things that you all just talked about. And date nights, outings, that was a big one, especially when the weather was nice. Instead of going out to dinner all the time, I cook, some meat on the grill or something, and maybe have a candle outside. And my wife and I, we sit outside on the deck while the kids are in bed and play some music or something. And it's a nice ambiance, saving a lot of money, and I don't have to tip anybody. Pet care, that's a big one. We got a mini poodle. Her name is Missy Coco. Right now, Missy Coco, she doesn't have to get groomed every week, every month. So the hair above her eyes, she's going to have to cover it up a little bit. You have to cut that cost down because she's not getting the groomed and the haircut all the time. But things you have to think about when you have your pets and so forth. We were able to cut that down. The cable TV, we talked about that. Maybe getting the streaming service, exercise, gym membership. Talk about this again, personally. Wife, she, they have those Pelotons. Well, she went and found an Peloton. It's not a real Peloton, but you get an Peloton, which is just the spin bike with a TV in front of it, and find the program to where you can do the same thing. It's saving from the memberships as well. So things to think about in your own household that you can cut down on some of those things that are just eating away at your own expenditures. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. All right. So here we've got deferred payments. And this is what we talked about. So whether you've got some your mortgage or a credit company where you have the credit card through, you can speak to that provider and they'll give you the option of pausing on that particular payment for that month. But you have to keep in mind that you're pausing for that month, but it's getting tacked on the end. So it's not going away. It's still something that you're going to have to pay back once you get towards the end, hopefully as we get through this side of this crisis. Great responses, y'all. All right. But we've looked at everything that's leaving our home. And we've come up with some great ideas as far as how we can just cut some costs and cut some of the normal things that we've gotten used to. Uh, During this crisis, we may have not even changed, and just our spends have gotten a little more expensive. And these are ways that we just wanted to go through to identify where you can cut back a little bit and still enjoy and have some peace of mind. But now we want to look at the money that's coming into our home. So let's go through that. All right. And when you all have the book, you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to jot this down, but I'm going to give you a tool in just a few moments. But we want to look at our regular income. You've got your full-time work, part-time work, or any other part-time work that you may have. If you're blessed to be able to still continue that, this is where we want to kind of tally that information. But after you look at what's coming in on a regular basis, we want to look at some creative income. And these are ways to generate income. So if you've unfortunately lost your job or you've had your hours reduced, you want to look at industries whose products and services have been in demand during the crisis. More than likely, they're hiring. For example, you've got grocery stores. We love doing a lot of the Instacart. So they needed more people to do the shopping for those carts. And so they've been hiring for that in that regard. Target is really, really good with that. They are quick. They are quick with that. But Kroger, Mier, Instacart, Safeway, these are just some of the stores out there. But shipping and delivery services, companies like Amazon, UPS, they are hiring. And as being able to order something and it come next day, it's amazing. But at the same time, they have to hire more to be able to fulfill that. Online learning organizations, there you go, adjunct professor. Learning organizations, remote meeting companies. I talk about my nephew who just showed up. He's a senior in high school, and he finishes his school about 12 o'clock every day. But he also makes himself available to mentor kids online who may have a need as far as math or science. He wants to go work for NASA, y'all. So y'all know anybody out there, let us know. But he is advanced in a lot of what he's doing. But he's doing this to help some of his friends in his community during this time, and it's been very beneficial. Again, I know we've been in a virtual setting. We're probably all zoomed out right now, but at the same time, it's made it more available for us to do a lot of these types of things. Just like right now, I'm in Tyrone, Georgia. That's where I'm located. So I'm about a hop, skip, and a jump away from you, but still, I feel like I'm right here, and you all can still contact me when you need to. So great opportunity there. But friends and family, think creatively. What do people need right now? What are you doing that may be a benefit to someone else? And that's one thing that he was able to identify. Thank y'all for the great responses. See, y'all make me smile. I can't see all your faces on here, but I appreciate y'all and I appreciate your responses and your attentiveness. This is what it's all about. Just pausing and thinking about things like, you know what, I never thought about that. Or my son or daughter, they're good at math, and they could probably help one of their friends out, and it's still kind of a bonding situation for them as well. So just you can keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So here's some creative income ideas. Now, childcare, that's one that we didn't speak of, but if you have an older a student in your home, or maybe when they go on break, you've got a college student that comes home. I know, again, we've got 10 and 12-year-old. They're just now starting to stay at home, but there are times when we go a little bit further out. Well, there's a college student in our neighborhood that they used to babysit for him in the past, and we reach out to them when she was home over the Christmas holiday. It was, she appreciated coming out to just hang out with them because it was going into the evening and so forth. But it gave us peace of mind. My wife and I, we were able to go out to our event, and it's just one way that we can think about this in our community. So dog walking, see, and I think I was waiting until somebody brought that up. My 12-year-old started a business called the Handy Kid. So when you think about those, you may not like rolling your trash can to the end of the street. You may not, when you're going out of town, you may not want to put your dog up in a home or something along those lines. So what does he do? when you're comfortable, we've got one neighbor, they've got an 80-pound bulldog. And when they go out of town, then he's tasked with going over 2 to 3 times a day, feeding him, letting him out, letting her run around, and then they entrust us with that. But it gives them peace of mind because we're sending them pictures of them just being together. Parent is always with them at the same time, and they look forward to that, and it gives them peace of mind, and they pay him for it. And then rolling the trash cans out, watering the plants and the flowers when it's warm and we've got plants and flowers. He that's his job. He's the handy kid, and that's what he does. So these are some ways that he's been able to create his own creative income and kind of be known in the neighborhood for doing these things. Delivery services, cleaning services, grocery stores, virtual tutoring. These are all things that we just spoke of. So absolutely. Hopefully this is stuff that is making some light bulbs go off in your own minds and with your own kids, or if you got nieces and nephews, grandkids, doesn't matter. These are some ideas that you can that can be very helpful. I see one comment in there. To save money long term for high school, students that are going to college, consider dual enrollment. Absolutely. Students can receive up to 30 hours and the state pays for it. That is absolutely, and that's one thing that my nephew did. He's still in high school, but he's already getting his college credits at the same time. But yeah, these are some great responses, y'all. Great responses. All right. So the next section is taking an inventory of the possessions that you could sell if you needed to. We hope that it doesn't come to this, but if it does, we want you to already have a plan and I've thought about it what those items might be. So I talked about having that extra car sitting in your driveway or your garage that you're not using, maybe selling that car to generate some income, or electronics. I'm in my basement in like my home office, unfinished. So I look across the way and I see a bunch of old electronics. So maybe a socially distant yard sale to sell some items, generate a little extra income. And also a little cool outside right now, but it's not like it hasn't been cool before. And I think that's something that we can keep in mind. And when the weather starts to get nice and pretty in the springtime, we can think about that as well. So what are some other ways that you can, as far as selling possessions, some creative income? What are some other things that you could think of that may be worth selling? Swap out with friends. Yep, absolutely. And that's getting to our next slide again. Um, Putting clothes on eBay for selling. Absolutely. That's what I was just getting ready to talk about. My wife, she probably gets on me because I'm always talking about her when I'm doing these presentations, but she has done a lot of things. She's cleaning out her closet, shoes, boots, and things along those lines. I know may not want to get rid of a lot of things, but just making them available. And outside of eBay, what's the other? I can't remember that other. I can't remember that other kind of a next door. I think it's next door. Next door, I think might be more communicating, but items that you're able to just kind of put out there that you're looking to sell, whether it be small pieces of furniture. I don't know how many times Plato's Closet. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how many times I had to drive across town to pick up a nightstand that somebody's been selling or something along those lines, but it's been beneficial and it's helping during this time. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. All righty. So next, you want to think, cash is not our only form of currency. What skills do you have that someone else needs? And what do they have in the form of skills or talents that you need? Barter is an act of trading a good or service between two or more parties without the use of money. I'm going to pause to make sure that everybody's still muted up. There we go. All right. So bartering, what skills or talents that you have that someone else can need, and what can be beneficial for them during this time? Are you a great cook? I love cooking. Are you, I may do some grilling outside and so forth, but my buddy up the street, he's good, with electrical work. So there's a point in time where I smoked some ribs for him, but he came and helped me put a couple outlets in the house. And we just kind of exchanged that way. So do you sew? Are you skilled at fixing things? Childcare. We talked about that. Computer repair and network setup. That is huge. These networks are in demand right now, and we are all putting more on them. So if you've got someone that is skilled in that, they can, give advice and so forth, especially if they're in your neighborhood. So what are some other things that you all can do to just maybe help in exchange for something that you need done at your own home? And I talked about my wife, being good with hair and so forth. And a lot of times she'll have a friend or a family member come over to, get some twists done or get some braids done or just get that good wash done. And they don't, normally it's not for pay or anything like that. Sometimes it's just good seeing people that you haven't seen in a long time. Create the website for the handyman who helps you out your house, helps out at your house. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great responses, y'all. Great responses. All right. So now we've gone through all of our regular income. We've looked at our creative income and then any possessions that we've sold. And this is where we get a tally for our total income. And this is what's coming from all of your different income streams. Now, we get to identify our budget at this time. This is where we're going to determine if we're living within your means. Now, this is the final steps, but so after you calculate all your expenses and all of your income, the number that you're left with will determine if you have a surplus of money, which is money left over, all the expenses have been paid, referred to as net income, or if you are in a deficit where expenses are greater than your income, leaving you in the negative. And I'm going to show you something in just a moment that helps you to come to that number. So this is your total expenses, your total income, let you know if you're in a budget deficit or a surplus. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and take you to what it is an Excel document that allows you to do this exact same thing. So let's see, if you pause with just a moment here, we're going to pull this up, and this is what we can share with everyone. I provided my email. I'm going to provide you some additional resources as well, but this can be emailed directly to you. But this is a spreadsheet that you can use, and you can use it on your personal device, tablet, computer, and everything that we just talked about. You got your total expenses, your must-have, your debt, and your sanity expenses. And as you go through, you enter your own information. So you got that housing, rent, mortgage. Say you're, $1,200 a month right there. You got your car insurance that you're paying. We'll say about 300 right there. Life insurance, health insurance. You enter that information in there, and you continue to go through auto loans. You got that auto loan still out there on a monthly basis, depending upon how much you're paying on it. You may be about $250 a month, whatever. Student loan, credit cards, these are all video streaming service, just what we talked about. Now, this you save money, but if you're paying those cable boxes, you're going to put this under that cable section. This is money that's leaving the home. So you still may be paying, $60 a month in reference to that. Chips and ice cream. Now, I didn't put this on the spreadsheet, y'all. They just knew I like ice cream. And so maybe you're still paying, $30. I say $30 a month. but we do it on a monthly basis. But as you enter this information, and I didn't even put electricity, gas, phone plan, groceries, as you got more folks in your home, that monthly grocery bill, depending upon how you're doing it, I mean, you could be upwards of, 350, depending upon how you spend and so forth. But it tells you your total expenses at the same time. So what we just went through was everything that's leaving our home. This is everything that's leaving our home right now. So what we want to do is also identify the income sources. And I tell you, don't enter anything in this little gray box. It's going to do it for you. So your full-time work, if you've been blessed to maintain your job, maybe let's say that $1,300 a month. All right. Any part-time work that you may have out there, if you got it going on a weekly basis, may add up to about $500 a month. But child care, delivery services. And now, if you've got a young one in your home, maybe they're making, they may do a regular sitting job, $50, where you can split that with them. They still living in your home. So that child care may add still $25 to that. Grocery stores, virtual tutoring, anything out there. We also talked about selling that car. If you got a car that's sitting in your garage, that may be a boost of about $3,000 that you sell that vehicle for. And if you've been able to have a yard sale or, socially distant, of course, maybe you get another $300 from the yard sale, depending upon what you're selling. But you look at your income, you're at 5,150 right now. So you take that number, jump back to this first segment, and you plug it in, 5,150, and then immediately tells you if you're in the green or the red. There's a little surplus here. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to go out and start buying a whole bunch of things, but it kind of lets you know what? I can allocate that. I can save that. My dad used to always call to have some hiccup money around. Someone put in the chat before how, you never know when that maintenance and the car breaks down. Right now, my truck is ready for that next oil change, but a window to get fixed, a power window, AC, but it's not going to happen while it's cold, but that's hiccup money. That you want to keep in mind. So these are things that when you put it down on paper yourself, or you put it in this spreadsheet, it kind of lets you know what's leaving your home and what's coming into your home. And then also with this spreadsheet, it's just kind of a general non-crisis and crisis. So when you look at, these are pre-filled numbers, but you can plug these in on your own. Entertainment, eating out, date outings, and so forth, 200, 100. But when you're doing it at home, that $30, that's just paying for a steak and a piece of chicken that you bought and you throw on the grill. Entertainment, eating out, you're not going out as much. Hobbies, cable TV, that's a big one. I told you, you paying that $85 a month, you start streaming. Now, anybody in here that may work for a cable company, I'm sorry to mention that, but somebody get your streaming service, you can cut that cost out as well. Lessons, education, personal spending, that $50. There's a big difference there. Non-crisis, we're about $4,500 leaving our home, and you cut that down to $2,222. And it's just a rough estimate so that you can see and think about what you do, what's happening in your home, your own household. All right. So again, I will be available, and I will show my email address again once we conclude this. So you can just email me, and I can shoot you out the actual crisis budget itself. You can have it, use it on your own device, and go forward from there. All right, so let's jump back to the conclusion. Resources that are out there available for everyone. We've got the COVID-19 Help Center. This is a website that you can utilize so that you can see what's happening around, any paycheck protection program, branch closures, Truist cares, any payment relief that's available. And then that crisis Excel document, which we just went through. And that's something that y'all can use with your own numbers and save it. And you can change it on a monthly basis. If you see a change and you're starting to do things a little differently, that's something that you can keep in mind as well. We've got some external resources out there. So the government website, Center for Disease Control. And that's usually a great resource because what they say around what we need to do is what a lot of companies are also going by and how they try to keep up and make changes and so forth to their requirements. Small Business Administration relief programs. These are just another pieces of information that you can utilize in reference if you're a small business owner. and say maybe you may not be able to pay your employees at a certain point in time. There's some resources out there to help you work through that during this time, especially coming out of the holidays. The pandemic has hit us all so hard, and I don't know how many times y'all have gone to maybe a bank or a restaurant, and that door might be locked because they still have families too. And this is what I explained to my mother. She's like, why they keep closing the bank? Well, they haven't. They have families as well, and if they have a child or someone that comes down with COVID, then they have to stay home, and that affects the ongoing business. But they want to keep everyone safe at the same time, so we have to just be mindful of that as well. And then also some local resources, located in your market. So we've got the Warner Robins Fort Valley, Andrea Youngblood. This is her email. She's closer to you all. She runs that branch location there, but still mobile and available to do a lot on the virtual setting. And then Miss Bianca Thomas, she's in the Warner Robins and Tipton market, but a great partner of mine, and runs the branch in that area. And just wanted to share their information. If you have additional questions, they're all familiar with this particular presentation. But again, they talk about this on a daily basis, and they may have some additional tips that can help you during this time. So by all means, it never hurts to make a phone call, to reach out, or even, you can call first to see if they're open, and just go and just have a conversation around things that you want to know more about, and they can help guide you through that process. It doesn't mean walk in and they're going to try to sell you anything, but it's having a conversation with a specialist, and that's why we try to provide this information for y'all today. So no storm can last forever. We'll get through this together, y'all, and that's why all of y'all are on here right now. So hopefully you found something that is beneficial, and you can share it with maybe a family member, someone in your neighborhood, someone you work with, to just help during this time, because it is a very stressful time. A lot of remote working, a lot of kids at home as well. But we're gonna get through this together, y'all. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share this with y'all. So with that concludes just the information that I wanted to share. And I'll open it up. If you have any, you've had some great feedback and some great information in the chat box, and I've seen some additional things that are popped in there. This is awesome. This is awesome. So great stuff. But no, I thank you all for just all of the information that you provided and just being a part of it this morning. If you have any questions for me, please reach out to me. You can take yourself off chat. Dr. McGee, I don't know if you wanted to say some comments, or if anyone else had some additional questions for me, and I'll put my information back up at the conclusion as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank
Our
you.
President, Dr. Theodosia Strange, Owena Odoms, Tanya Simmons Lee, we all will make sure that all the information is distributed to all the participants and those who could not get on. We'll make sure they have the workbook pages and all the information you've given us today. And I'm going to ask our president to have some words to say. And then after her, Ms. Tanya Simmons Lee.
Sounds good. You might want to take yourself off mute if you're still muted.
Is she still on? Okay, I think they still muted.
Okay.
I'm present. This is Tanya.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if our president was on. I did not want to precede her if she was.
Okay. Well, let's get started, and then we'll have
Okay.
to say something. Yes.
All right. Well, on behalf of the programming that is done by the Links Incorporated, specifically the Fort Valley chapter of Links, I do want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the presenter and for all those that are online. We do understand that, money does make the world go around, and it does make life a little easier for us when we're able to utilize it in a way that aids us and creates comfort instead of distress. And so I think the information that has been shared today has done that, whether you have an adequate amount in your bank account or if you don't. I think it gives us a great guideline. I think it gives us structure. And I think that's what we need right now. We need the information to make better decisions so that we can live a life that is pleasing for us. We can't be like the Joneses. And who says that the Joneses have it all together, right? And I think the information today, it speaks to the individual person. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you to the committee led by Dr. McGee for putting this on and for winning this opportunity for our communities, as well as for those that are online. I see many of our chapter members on here. Thank you all for being in this space. It does support the fact that we do what we do for others. Again, I appreciate it. Thank you and be well.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Next, if our president is available, I would like her to speak now. Don't think she is available. The other person I would like to say something on behalf of the National Trends would be Oina Odom, who is instrumental in helping to get this started and get everything on board. So I would like her to speak, please.
Okay, hello again, everyone. My name is Oina Odoms, and as I said in the beginning, thank you to Mr. King for graciously sharing with us your time and the tips that you have basically laid out for us on how to get started, which is the first crucial step in being able to climb back out of what was, in essence, definitely a crisis that took us all by surprise. So now we can kind of arrest some of the effects and not just consistently just flow with it and continue to go deeper and deeper. We can start to have some control of it. And that is very, very helpful. As Mrs. Simmons Lee made mention, thank you to everyone, our chapter members who were present and everyone else that has taken the time to partake in this. We will, in fact, make this recording available on our chapter YouTube channel that can be accessed via our chapter website, fortvalleylinks.org. You will see a link that says YouTube channel on the bottom of the page. But thank you to everyone and have a great day.
All right, thank you, Ms. Odom. Our president was having some technical difficulties, but she's going to attempt to speak through her phone, through me. So I'm going to allow her to do that if possible. Okay, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you. I mean, I was been yelling to my phone and just trying to see what's going on and got on the house phone and landline, but thank you to our participants in budgeting during this crisis that we have out there. I want to thank the phenomenal Vincent Kane of Truist Bank in sharing your time and knowledge on how we can manage money during this pandemic. No storm can last forever, as words of Vincent Kane. Benefit of National Trends and Services and the committee, and to our chair, Dr. Paula McGee, for your service in connecting the community with the tools that are needed in budgeting. I'm sure that all of us love money. However, we want to save and stretch it as much as we can to allow us to have the good things in life without worry. Mr. Kane, your responses are valuable to us in maintaining our finances. We really appreciate you and your expertise in money management. We look forward And we look forward, and I'm just saying, we look forward in working with you on our journey of budgeting. Thank you to our sisters from the Fort Valley chapter of the Links Incorporated. As president, I have been very blessed to have a group of hardworking, dedicated, beautiful African American women that are changing the game of life with their service and friendship to the communities that we live and serve in. Thank you to our Director of Programs, ncome. Thank you to the sisters. Thank you to the community and the participants again. And we appreciate you, and we're looking forward to having you again on our next journey as we manage through this crisis. Now I'm going to pass it back to Dr. McGee. Thank you again for this opportunity.
All right. I'd like to thank Mr. Kane. When he and I spoke, he had so much energy. I was excited even before the meeting, and now he delivered, and I'm even more excited for our next meeting. This is just one of the sessions that we will have. We have some others are lined up, and we will get that information out to you so that you could be a part of this awesome experience. And he has made himself available to you all. Also, I would like to thank the sisters of the Links, the Fort Valley chapter of Links Incorporated, along with the child care providers for early Head Start and families. Also would like to thank Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sisters for joining in on this event as well. So I want to thank each and every one of you all. We'll let you know when the next webinar will be, and I hope to see you all soon. Mr. Kane, any parting words before we adjourn?
I thank you all once again. This phenomenal group. You are all just as Dr. McGee just said, beautiful people. And I am grateful to be able to partner with you, and look forward to being able to further impact the community with you in the future to come. So thank you all once again. And without further ado, if there's no other closing comments, y'all have a wonderful Saturday. I'm going to watch some football later, y'all, and not spend any money.
One more thing. I forgot to thank Fort Valley Youth Center of Excellence members for being a part of it as well. And my church member, St. Peter AME. Thank you. All right. That's it. I think that's it, Mr. Kane. That is it.
Okay. All right. Thank you all once again. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.